A major goal of multicultural education is to reform schools so that students from diverse ethnic, racial, and social class groups will experience educational equality. My goal as a teacher is to promote self-discovery in my classroom. I'll provide these opportunities with a curriculum that values all social identities in a safe environment that allows students the freedom to explore their own identity. It is imperative that all educators understand how race, gender, and other differences matter in school. In my classroom, I will use a curriculum that reflects and values different non-traditional identities. I will use content integration, which will give students the chance to relate their own experiences to the material they are learning. By teaching my students the meaning of culture and how to respect the identities of others, I hope to encourage my students to work together as a community. What disadvantaged children lack is learning, not the fundamental capacity to learn. I believe that it is a teacher's responsibility to determine the unique tools that each student requires in order to be successful. As a teacher, it is important that I know and understand the aspirations of my students, and I can create an environment that will give them the confidence to reach these goals. By giving my students flexibility in the classroom, they will have the opportunity to exercise and reflect on these thoughts. Your social sphere is an important factor in developing your identity, which is why I want to be certain I am creating a positive learning environment. I want my students to be comfortable if they make mistakes while learning because I want to teach children that in life it is not about the destination but the journey you take to get there. I do not believe that failure should ever be a concern because it is my promise to my students that as a team we will work together to achieve their academic goals and apply these skills to their future. People are constantly redefining themselves, and adolescence is a significant phase in determining your own identity. By incorporating identity Venn diagrams that we used in our class into my own lesson, I will open the door for students to connect with others that have similar values, beliefs, or interests as themselves. These identity groups will help students feel comfortable expressing their thoughts because they are aware of their peers whom they share similar opinions with. Before Delia from Ehe Academy's charter school visited, I never considered home visits as a part of my philosophy of education, nor did I view home visits as an outlet to understanding my students' correlation between their home and school life. I plan to include home visits in my teaching strategies, not just to determine how they act at home, but to observe their talents and interests and incorporate them to make learning more enjoyable for the different personalities of each student. In our interview with the faculty from Champs Charter High School and with the 4 current high school students, I realized how important a teacher's attitude is in motivating students to learn. An energetic attitude can change the entire feel of the classroom. By showing students that I care about their future and taking the time to dedicate myself to reaching their goals, I hope to provide students not just the knowledge to succeed in college, but also teach them simple life lessons that they will never forget. Identity can be easily changed by who we interact with. Through my community service learning project, I learned how important it is to be a positive influence in my students' lives. Every Tuesday that I came by Mrs. Oliver's classroom, the children remembered exactly what I told them the week before and valued my opinion when asking questions about life or schoolwork. As a teacher, I want to be a role model to my students, and I will continue to model a behavior that appreciates the diversity among students' identities. Expectations can affect academic achievement. Before this class, I was unaware of how a high expectation and a low expectation can negatively affect all students. I have learned to change my perceptions on students by not placing them in a category based on their ability to understand information, but instead have confidence in their ability to improve. I will not let expectations get in the way of my students achieving, but instead let my students create their expectations for themselves, and together we will get there. Lastly, the very best thing that I believe that I can do for myself and for my students is reflect. Through this exercise, I will be able to redefine my curriculum in order to fit the needs of my students. This time to reflect will help me determine what I am going to do right in my classroom and what I need to change, and whether or not my techniques are improving my students' capacity to learn, as well as assisting their process of self-discovery. These implications relate to my professional development as a teacher, as well as school policy and practices for educators who choose to provide a safe space for the free exploration of adolescent identities in schools. I believe that with content integration, flexibility for self-discovery, home visits, displaying a positive attitude and behavior, and reflecting on my day-to-day teaching, I will be able to give my students the best education possible and follow the guidelines which define my own philosophy of education.